Joins us right now. What's up, Zozone?
How's it going, guys?
Hi, Todd.
Good morning.
I'm there. I'm here. Hey.
Hey, are you in the basement? You know he has this baseball card room that he does his Zooms from?
I watch.
Are you in the baseball card room?
I am not, no, because I have zero reception down there. It is literally, I'm literally in the basement.
Cave.
All right, so first thing before we talk about free agency, because I haven't talked to you since then, what was your read and what was your reaction to Dave Dombrowski and the comments about Bryce Harper? I thought it was incredibly careless and unproductive to start talking about him being elite and everything else that went with that conversation. Do you think it was calculated like some people think, or was that just Dave talking off the cuff? Because what he said, there was really like nothing wrong with what he said, but it's just not normally something an executive talks about.
Yeah, I think he was being especially candid, surprisingly so, I guess you could say. You usually don't have a GM or a president of baseball ops or anybody in that position be as honest as he was. My opinion is that these are probably things that they've wondered aloud in meetings about Bryce and his season and, you know, kind of where he's going to be moving forward. And in that moment, he opined that, hey, you know what, I don't know if he's still going to be elite or not. You know, he wasn't elite this year. Not really sure what he's going to be next year and in the future, but, you know, I guess we'll find out. And that's honestly what I thought it was. You know, maybe if he had a do-over, Dave wouldn't be so candid. He could, you know, because he easily could have said, yeah, by Bryce's standards, he did not have an elite season. But we have no doubt he's going to get back to that level last year. Don't forget, he had a wrist injury the first half of the season that cost him a month and affected his play the first several weeks of the year. So, but he didn't say that for whatever. What I don't believe, John, is that it was has anything to do with the lack of a contract extension or him trying to, like, make Bryce upset to force a trade. I don't think it was anything involving a contract extension dispute or anything like that. I think it was just Dave being really, really surprisingly honest. And it kind of blew up and became a thing to the point where, you know, Scott Boras talked about it, and obviously Bryce talked with Matt Gelb at The Athletic about it.
Yeah, I think it was more like you said, Todd, it was like that stream of conscious where they were like, yeah, you know, it wasn't a great year for him by his standards, but he didn't say that extra part out, so it would have been fine. I think people probably wouldn't have really been eyebrow-raising if he had said it the way that you said. Well, listen, he's coming back from the injury, and we were asking him to do a lot and whatever else, but it wasn't a good season by Bryce Harper standards. I think Bryce Harper would say that, but Bryce Harper didn't get to say that because he just had to respond to what Dave Dombrowski said, which I think – is there any thought in your mind that relationship now has changed because of these kind of slip-of-the-tongue, stream-of-conscious moments?
You know, I don't know. I guess we'll find out as this kind of moves forward. I don't think so. I think eventually they'll patch things up. And you know, listen, Bryce wants to be in Philly. Bryce wants to win. Dave Dombrowski wants to win another World Series. You know what can make this all go away? Dave Dombrowski has a really good offseason. He re-signs Kyle Schwarber. He re-signs JT Realmuto. And he maybe finds a big bat to hit behind Bryce Harper in the lineup. I think that would make all of this uncomfortable awkwardness, all these uncomfortable comments and speculation go away. And that's kind of what Scott Boras said. I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he said, yeah, you know, I wish Dave would have mentioned the wrist injury. I don't know why he didn't mention the wrist injury. And then he talked about, you know, hey, if you want Bryce to be elite, how about get him a big bat to protect him in the lineup? And honestly, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Mm-hmm. They got to get him some help and get this team really does need a legit cleanup hitter.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Talking to Todd Zolecki, there's so much to talk about. So let's get right to the big meaty issues. Kyle Schwarber, the projections I've seen, Todd, are some are saying 5 years, $160 million. I've seen 4 years. Ultimately, I don't believe there's any way that they're allowing him to leave. John Middleton is not going to be outbid unless Kyle wants to leave, which I don't have any indication that he wants to. But how many years do you think this gets to, and do you think that there's any way the Phillies let him walk?
I don't think there's any way that they let him. Well, I shouldn't say that. You know, if somebody goes just absolutely crazy and offers him just a massive, massive deal, then at that point maybe the Phillies walk away and they turn their attention to somebody like Pete Alonso. But John Middleton listens to his customers. He listens to Phillies fans. He listens to the front office, and they all want him back. And so you have players that want him back, teammates that want him back, the manager wants him back, the front office wants him back, the owner wants him back. They all see the value there. And so, yeah, I could see a 5-year deal, 5 years, $30 million a year, $150 million for Kyle Schwarber, because I think they all look at him and they say, all right, he's got this elite bat speed. He hits the ball hard. He's DHing, so there's not going to be much wear and tear in his body. I think they all believe that he's going to hold up. And so, and they also see what kind of just tremendous value he brings in the clubhouse. And I know it's impossible to kind of quantify, but I've said this and I believe it. He's the best leader in the Phillies clubhouse that I have seen since I've started covering this team. He's just absolutely incredible the way he kind of keeps the team together and just kind of leads by example, leads vocally, all that stuff. And so he's kind of the total package. And so I do think that they are going to re-sign him. Unless, again, like the Red Sox go, you know what, we're going to give you 7 years, $210
Which isn't
million.
likely, yeah.
Which isn't likely.
And also, don't forget about the box office. They're going to sell seats. The reason they can have this, the reason they can have this payroll is because a lot of people come and watch the Phillies play, and Kyle Schwarber is kind of your main attraction right now.
Yeah, I mean, the guy hits tons of home runs. He's a lot of fun to watch, and not only does he hit home runs, he hits these majestic blasts, and so there's a lot of reasons to bring him back. And you're right. You don't re-sign Kyle Schwarber. Well, you better spend that money somewhere to fill those holes because you need to make up for the production and you need to make up for the fact that fans want to come and watch him play.
When you look at their wish list, and it's going to be longer than I think people probably consider when you really look at what they actually need and are going to have to go out and get, what would your top 2 positions be on that wish list?
Well, certainly, big bat, so that's Kyle Schwarber, but I also think it has to be catcher. They have to bring back JT, and if they don't bring back JT, you really need to figure out what you're going to do there, because JT, I know he had really his worst year offensively since his rookie year, but he is like same thing. The intangibles of him, the way he runs the game, the pitchers love throwing to him. He's also a great leader in that clubhouse. Lead by example guy. So catcher for sure. I also think that they just need to find another right-handed bat, a legit right-handed bat. If Pete Alonso comes to mind, I don't know if they could swing Schwarber, Alonso, and Realmuto. Probably not, but they have to find a way to add another competent right-handed bat there because the Phillies cleanup hitters this season, I think they had like a combined like 720 OPS or something. It was 20th in baseball of all leadoff cleanup hitters on all teams in Major League Baseball. They need to be much better at that. And then you look back at who they were hitting cleanup this past season. It was Alec Boehm. It was Nick Castellanos. It was JT Realmuto. They need to put somebody in there that can go out, hit at least 20 home runs with 100 RBIs. With those guys getting on base in front, Turner, Schwarber, Harper, if that's how Rob Thompson wants to set his lineup again next year, that's a ton of guys on base, a lot. You almost should have a guy that rolls out of bed and knocks in 100 runs. And Alec Boehm, if Alec Boehm is back, he's probably ideally more of a 6-hole hitter than he is a cleanup hitter. So that I think that needs to be a priority for this team.
Yeah, for sure. And when you're talking about Bryce Harper, how about protecting him? You had mentioned it earlier. I mean, when you look at some of the advanced analytics, Bryce Harper saw less strikes this past season than he ever has before. He was swinging at first pitches more than he ever has before in his why? Because he
had to.
Yeah, he had to, and he's not seeing the strikes because they're not worried about Boehm hitting behind him. So yeah, Todd, I just don't know how you do it with you talk about Alonso. Where the hell's he playing? Right? Like Kyle Schwarber, right. Part of the problem with Kyle Schwarber is he's your DH, so you can't even finagle that position at all.
Correct. Now the one thing that Bryce talked about this last spring. And he I remember talking to him about it again right before the deadline when Eugenio Suarez was available in Arizona. He said, for the right guy, for the right bat, I would move back out into the outfield. Now, he also said, I like first base. I want to play there long term. So I don't know if it still applies if the Phillies said, hey, we can go out and get this guy, but it's going to have to force you to move back to the outfield. I don't know if he would be willing to do that. So you're right. I mean, I don't know if Alonso fits, but there's other guys out there that they could potentially sign or get via trade.
Yeah.
Exactly. That I think they need to do. I think they need to get to give him more protection. You know, and Bryce has said, he has actually said this, though. He's like, you know, it doesn't matter who's hitting behind me. I'm still not going to get pitches to hit.
Right.
But he did chase more pitches this past season, and I think it's because he felt, I've got to get this done because I don't know subconsciously if the guys behind me are going to do it. But if he does have a legit bat hitting behind him, maybe he shows a little bit more patience. Maybe he walks a little bit more, and maybe he instead of falling in an early 0-1, 0-2 situation, maybe he takes a pitch outside for a ball, and then he gets into a hitter's count, and then he does more damage that way.
That's Todd Zolecki, a longtime Phillies reporter, MLB.com. The Phillies Show, great podcast with Ruben and Jim Salisbury. You guys are putting out content. I listened to the last two episodes that you had out. So a couple quick hitters. You mentioned JT. To me, it's whether he gets 3 or 4 years. There's no way they're letting JT walk. So I think I think everybody's hoping 2, but if I had to guess, I'm saying 3.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of teams that – I shouldn't say a ton of teams. I think there's a team out there that is so desperate for catching. So the rest of the free agent catching is so bad that somebody's going to offer him 3. So I think the Phillies are almost going to have to give him 3. I saw one projection in the Athletic the other day. It said like 3 years, 45. Yeah, you know,
right.
Salvador Perez just signed in. Yeah, Salvador Perez just signed an extension with the Royals. I think it was 2 years, 25. That's $12.5 million. So – you know, maybe you have to go a little bit more than that to get JT, lock him in. Who's
your center fielder? Harrison Bader declines the $10 million option. He's the guy I could see the Phillies saying, we're not giving you 3 years, we're not giving you $45 million. He's an injury history to him. We saw that actually come up in the playoffs when he couldn't play. But how do you think the Bader? They need a right-handed bat in the outfield, Todd.
They do need a right-handed bat in the outfield. Yeah, that is, to me, very, very fascinating because he basically had a career year at 31. You look back at his previous 3 years, he was a below-average offensive player. And I know Phillies fans love him because he was awesome those last 2 months of the season. But injury history, he's bounced around to a lot of teams. He's been an below-average offensive performer the 3 previous years. So all of a sudden, if Harrison Bader's like, hey, man, I want a 3-year deal, that would give me some serious pause.
Yeah.
That would give me some real serious pause. And I do think there are enough other right-handed outfield bats that could be available that you could go out there. So it might be a corner bat. That's fine. Then maybe you have Brandon Marsh or Justin Crawford play center field. So I do think that they have some options there.
There it is. I was waiting. Wait, how are we this far in? And you just mentioned some of the guys down on the farm. Todd, let's go. Justin Crawford was the most popular name in July. What are the chances, though, realistically, that we do see Justin Crawford up with the big club?
I think there's a very good chance.
Yeah.
I think he goes into camp. I don't want to say with a job, it's his job to lose, but you know, Dave did in one of his other moments of candor in that press conference last month. He said, "Well, you know, Max Kepler, we can say he won't be back because we have Justin Crawford." And he said a couple other times, you know, Justin Crawford's the guy we expect to contribute. He's got nothing left to prove in AAA.
Right.
Nothing left to prove in AAA. So I'm not a betting man, but if I had to bet you, Amy, like $100 he makes the opening day roster, I would feel really good about that $100 bet if you would bet against it.
He's your left fielder with no power. He's your corner outfielder with no power, is what you're getting.
He could play center field. Bader's not back, and then they go get a bigger right-handed bat to play one of the corner spots. Because I don't think Castellanos is going to be back. So they have a lot of flexibility there in terms of what they could do.
All right,
got to get a little pop out there. Crawford will hit above average.
Yeah, he can be a good player.
Speed on the base paths, no doubt about it. Plays a nice outfield, but
they need an impact bat. All right, last thing. I'm seeing Ranger Suarez is getting 5 or 6 years. We know it's not going to be with the Phillies. I just hope it's not with the Mets. Do you think I thought Ranger was maybe a 4-year, $110 million guy. 6 years, 164 is what I think I saw Bowden put out there. Are they crazy?
Well, you know what? This is funny now. The way that a lot of teams are watching what the Dodgers did, right? They kind of controlled the innings of all their guys, and then they were just awesome in the postseason.
Yeah.
That is legitimately what Ranger Suarez does every year. 150 innings, doesn't really give you 30, 32 starts. But then in the postseason, he is absolutely lights out. So I think Scott Boras is his agent. That is going to be his pitch. If you're the Mets, I'm going, and I'm David Stearns, and I'm saying, well, Ranger he can't give me 200 innings, 30 starts here. I go, look what the Dodgers did.
Yep.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Look at what the Dodgers did. How about this?
Give you
How about you
October.
take a guy that, yeah, absolutely. How about you take Ranger Suarez's 150 innings, you fill the other 50 innings somehow, and then you have a guy that has literally like the 8th lowest ERA in postseason history of anybody with like 40 or more innings pitched. Does that sound pretty good for you? Do you think you could use that in the postseason, David Stearns? And he's going to go, yeah, maybe you're right. Then you call Steve Cohen, you go, listen, he's not going to give us 200 innings, but he is going to show up in the postseason, and he's going to be off the Phillies roster. So, yeah, I think it could be the Mets. I think there's a lot of teams that would be willing to pay him that type of money.
That second part, too. He would be off the Phillies roster.
Yep.
That's very enticing.
Todd Zolecki, content creator.
Good stuff, Todd.
Unbelievable stuff. I'm sure you're going to be doing a new show soon. So enjoying what you're doing, Todd, and appreciate
Good
a
stuff.
couple.
Really good stuff.
Thanks for watching Middays with Marks. Like and subscribe right here. If you like and subscribe, you probably are loving what you're watching. There's more of it right here. Check it out.